Welcome to JW Broadcasting. This month we focus on how we can refine ourselves as Christians by imitating Jehovah's holiness. All of this and more on JW Broadcasting for October 2019.
To penetrate
Our clean and holy position. Doing so could impact the kingdom work or stumble others. So Jehovah's holiness is beautiful. Think about the physical world. How do you feel about beautiful things? Are you drawn to them or repelled by them? For example, look at these landscapes. How do they make you feel? Would you like to spend time here? Can you see yourself walking here, filling your lungs with clean, fresh air? Or how about drinking from a river of pure, crystal clear water? How we yearn to live in such conditions, and we will. But have you ever wondered what it is about these images that's so appealing? Simply put, everything is pure and clean. On the other hand, if these same locations were filled with
garbage,
graffiti, and smog, would you still want to be there? Likely not. Pollution and filth are not attractive. What's the point? We're naturally drawn to beauty. Beauty is associated with things that are clean, pure, and bright. That's how Jehovah wants us to view His holiness. Meditating on this aspect of God's personality draws us closer to Him.
God's personal name.
Jehovah.
How Jehovah preserved His name in the Holy Scriptures against all attempts to remove it is a fascinating story. And it's told here in the Bible Museum at World Headquarters in Warwick. Let's take the tour. At the museum's entry, the divine name is shown in various languages a total of 7,216 times. That's how many times it appears in the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures. Jehovah always made His name known, even to the very first humans. When Cain was born, Eve declared, "I have produced a male child with the help of
Jehovah.
The oldest example of the divine name in Hebrew letters is on the Moabite stone from the 9th century BCE. Moabite King Mesha boasted against Israel. "I took from it the vessels of
Jehovah
and offered them before Chemosh." There's also evidence that in ancient times, God's name was used in everyday life. This silver scroll from the 7th century BCE is the earliest known inscription of a Bible text containing God's name. It reads,
May Jehovah
bless you and keep you. May Jehovah
Jehovah
make his face shine on you.
I came across an article online, and it has to do with YHWH, and I provided the link in the description. So it starts off like this. The original Hebrew alphabet consisted of 22 letters, and all of them were consonants. Vowels were not represented in writing, except that the major vowel sounds were indicated by the three letters Yod, Vav, and E. These were used to represent long vowels as well as normal letters and are known as vowel letters. Even today, the Hebrew scrolls of law, which are read in the synagogues, are without any vowel signs as we know them today. The ancient Hebrew text was reverenced and regarded as sacred, so when errors due to copying were found in the text, the scribes would not alter the original consonantal text, even when the error was an obvious one. Instead, they would mark the corrupt word called ketib, meaning it is written, with an asterisk or small circle, which would call the reader's attention to a correction called kire, meaning to be read. This would be written in a margin or a footnote. When the reader then came to the place of correction, he would see the mark and read the kire, the corrected word, instead of the ketib, the written word. God's divine name, which is known as the Tetragrammaton, meaning 4 letters, was an example of this. However, it may have been pronounced, there came a time when readers of the Hebrew scrolls for some reason refused to pronounce it. Then the above method began to be used to substitute another word, Adonai, which means my Lord, for the real name YHWH. Thus, when the text was read, YHWH, the ketib, would be written, but Adonai, the kire, would be read. During the time when the Qumran, which is the Dead Sea Scrolls, were written, it had become practice to write the kire above the ketib in the text without reference to footnotes or margins for God's name. It was called a kire perpetuum, or a permanent kire. However, because the Hebrew was only written with consonants, the reader being expected to put the vowel sounds in from memory, Hebrew was very difficult for the unlearned to read. So at some time around or after the 7th century AD, a group of Hebrew scholars called the Masoretes introduced a system of vowel points to the Hebrew text. This enabled the text to be read and pronounced from the writing by people with little knowledge of Hebrew. It then became practice when writing God's name to write the consonants of YHWH or YHWH with the vowel points of Adonai together, which some Hebrew grammar books say it's in possible form. The combining of these vowels and consonants was not without problems because the vowels of Adonai do not naturally fit the consonants YHWH or YHWH. The first vowel sound of Adonai is a compound sheva, a slight A sound under the guttural letter Aleph. It can only appear under the 4 guttural letters, so it cannot be put under Yod, which is the first letter of the Tetragrammaton. It was therefore changed to its nearest equivalent, which is a simple sheva, but this has a slight E sound. This twisting of the word is where the second letter of the name Jehovah comes from. The divine name now would still be recognized by the reader, and he would still pronounce Adonai instead of YHWH or YHWH. At some later date, it was then decided to combine the consonants of YHWH or YHVH and the vowel points under it to make a new word, which sounded something like Yehovah, Yehoah, or Yehovah. This combining of vowel points and consonants of different words should not have been done, and it was not always done consistently. In about 305 places where we find Adonai and YHWH or YHVH occurring together, which I have here Jeremiah 4:10, Jeremiah 7:20, Ezekiel 2:4, and Ezekiel 3:11, etc. The Tetragrammaton takes the vowel points of Elohim instead of Adonai, and it is pronounced as Elohim. A transliteration of it sounds like Yahoe or Yahovah, and it is almost invariably translated as God in most English Bibles, but it doesn't make God's name Yehovah, does it? By then changing the Y to a J through a variation in the German alphabet, the Interlinear Hebrew Aramaic Old Testament by J.P. Green, PXII, Teach Yourself Biblical Hebrew, R.K. Harrison, page 32. Some also say the Latin. Aid to Bible Understanding, 1971, Watchtower in Bible Tract Society, page 885. We end up with a word that sounds like Jehovah. Before the system of vowel points came in around or after the 7th century A.D., a practical grammar for classical Hebrew by J. Weingreen, page 6, footnote C, Teach Yourself Biblical Hebrew, R.K. Harrison, page 21, the word Jehovah could not have been used for God. In the scriptures, YHWH or YHVH would be written and Adonai would be read, so the name Jehovah would never have been used. According to Jehovah's Witnesses' own literature, Aid to Bible Understanding, 1971, Watchtower and Bible Tract Society, page 885 to page 885, quote, the first recorded use of this form dates from the 13th century CE. Raimundus Martini, a Spanish monk of the Dominican order, used it in his book Pugeo Fidei of the year 1270 AD. The Jehovah's Witnesses even go so far as to admit that his name cannot be known with certainty. Aid to Bible Understanding, 1971, Watchtower and Bible Tract Society, page 885, quote, since certainty of pronunciation is not now attainable, there seems to be no reason for abandoning in English the well-known form Jehovah in favor of some other suggested pronunciation.
From the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is JW Broadcasting.